We'd like to thank Gulfstream Park for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Gulfstream Park, the championship meet, running now through Florida Derby weekend, March 31st.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America. Seth Merrow in the studio. Thanks for joining us on this Saturday morning. A fun morning because there was some fun news. We're at that time of year where a lot of my favorite tracks are opening up, so we'll have some of that. But there was also the fun news a few days ago. Belmont Stakes at Saratoga became official after having spent the last 2 months answering questions from people where I said, I'm pretty sure it's here, but the announcement hasn't been made yet. But it became official a couple of days ago coming out of the governor's office. And so I reached out and we taped an interview yesterday with Pat McKenna, Vice President of Communications from the New York Racing Association. A little more info on Belmont at Saratoga coming up in June, and also some more info on the redevelopment of Belmont Park itself. But as I say, it's that time of year when the tracks open up that I really enjoy this time of year. A little Tampa Bay, but also really maybe my favorite track to play all year long, Oaklawn Park. And so that started yesterday. I had a pretty good day yesterday if you were following along in the afternoon or picked up the OTB one sheet. But I thought who better to reach out to kind of lead us into the 2023-2024 meet than our friend Nancy Holthus. You see her in the pregame and the paddock and whatnot. Nancy, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me. That's a great promo for recorded that.
It's absolutely true. I just find a lot of value down there. I think it's a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it for years. I had the pleasure of, my sister lives up in Fayetteville, and so I took a road trip some years back and visited her. And then on the way to Florida, I made a stop at Oaklawn and a stop at Fairgrounds in between. And I have since touted Oaklawn is just, it's a great venue. And I say it to the people in our area, in our viewing area, it's a lot like Saratoga. I mean, I think the town has a similar mentality. I think we have a shot, actually, of the apron on a big day, which to me is reminiscent of Saratoga. You get the big crowds. And as I say, it's like Saratoga because I always say it to people up here during the summer. Saratoga is Saratoga, not just because of the racing, inside the fence of the racetrack, but you go downtown at night and people are talking about the Daily Double they played that day, the exact that they have coming up. And it sounds, and from my experience, Hot Springs is a lot like it. And when I went to your Twitter feed, I saw the town is so into it that you had a special event earlier this week. Bill Mott and Frank Fletcher were up on stage for an interview. So as I say, I think the town is completely into it.
Yeah, Hot Springs has embraced horse racing for well over 100 years, and there's just so much history. And Oaklawn is really synonymous with Hot Springs and thoroughbred racing. And yeah, that event was an annual event. It might have been the 16th, but it's actually sponsored by the North Little Rock Chamber of Commerce, and it's held at Frank Fletcher's hotel. So, it was great that Bill Mott got to come in. We got to reminisce about Breeders' Cup, Cody's Wish, his experiences here at Oaklawn. But it's always, we know when that event happens, the meet is right around the corner. And we like to say that you guys are the Saratoga or the Oaklawn of the North.
Very good.
I know people say we're the, you're the Oaklawn of the South or the Saratoga of the South, but we reverse it.
I like that. I like that very much. That's good. I'll have to remember that. And as I say, given an event like that, I'm sure that buzz is the same down there leading into the meet as it is up here. People really, you get into those last few weeks and people are looking forward to it. Opening day yesterday, and I didn't pull up the replay, but I did note, and I used the horse on top, so it was one of a few winners I had on opening day, which I was pretty pleased with. But Valentine Candy for Steve Asmussen won the Advent yesterday and looked pretty good doing it. So maybe a nice little 2-year-old to keep our eyes on when the calendar flips in January.
Yeah, he was just ridiculously impressive. And I actually spoke to Ramon Vasquez after the race. And, he drew off. He won by, I think 6 3/4 lengths and just really went into another gear late. And I asked Ramon, I said, were you kind of surprised he drew off like that? He said, yeah, I was, because he just, Ramon was just a passenger that last 16th of a mile, but a really good way to open the meet. And, and glad to have Ramon back in our colony as well.
Yeah, again, it was a nice performance there and a nice little kickoff with the 2-year-old stake, the Advent. We'll talk about the stakes coming up today as well. But just also give us an overview, because we just wrapped up the handicapping show, and my partner and I, Anthony Marmino, were talking, boy, Oaklawn has just exploded over the last decade or so. And this year continues it. As I was reading, $900,000 a day in purses, and you're going to add kind of a nice little tie-in with New York. You're going to add a new wager to the meet as well. So talk a little bit about the meet that we've just gotten underway.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Fox Sports has been a big presence here at Oaklawn the last several years with America's Day at the Races, and we're teaming up with NYRA to have a cross-country pick 5 every race day. It's a 50-cent minimum wager, just 15% takeout. And I love that, we're correlating with the East Coast. And, we saw David Jacobson win 2 on yesterday's card. And I wouldn't be surprised, we maybe see a few more prominent New York names come here this season. So it's a great promotion. And I couldn't believe I made it through my first 2 legs yesterday, which were at Aqueduct. And then, I think myself and a lot of other people got kicked out by the $81 winner in the first leg here at Oaklawn. So, but it's a great promotion. And Crystal Conning, new paddock analyst, Matt Dinnerman, our new track announcer, and I are going to rotate putting out a cross-country pick 5 ticket.
Excellent. And I was going to mention that $80 win. It was a fun opening day with, some logical horses. And that one, I said afterwards, and I was completely redboarding, but I said, you could have looked at that horse, the $80 horse, had a couple of nice races to start the career, and then just didn't quite live up to that, but took a break and had some nice bullet workouts leading in. It was one of those, if you looked up at the board and saw 40-1, you maybe could have taken a second look at that. Again, I'm redboarding. I didn't, but I think there were some things that you could have made the case for that one, but it helped make the day fun for somebody. And you mentioned, and I went down your Twitter feed and I pulled up a nice shot of you, Crystal Conning, you, and Matt Dinnerman. Give us a little update on the new crew down there.
Yes, I am beyond thrilled to have a new media team, I guess you could say. Crystal Conning, a lot of people know her as an Australian native and jockey. She's ridden here in the States for the last 5 years, and she was the paddock analyst at Monmouth this last season. So wonderful to have her analysis. I don't ride thoroughbreds. You couldn't pay me enough to get on one. So it's great to have, her eye in the paddock. And, talking on the pre-race show, she puts herself in the past performances to see, how the race is going to set up, how, who she would track. Just fantastic analysis by her, and so tickled to have Matt Dinnerman and all of his rubber ducks here in Hot Springs. So yeah, he has just been they've both been so welcomed by the community. And I don't want to use the word warn, but I did give them a heads up that prior to opening day, you're already a local celebrity. Like you said, you can't go anywhere in Hot Springs without racing on, people talking about the races. So it's been a wonderful experience for them, and just absolutely so thrilled to be working with them.
Yeah, and as I said to you before we went on the air, I'm going to have to plug them in and introduce them to the folks as well. And I watched the pregame yesterday. It was Crystal and you. Is that going to be the game plan for the pregame show?
So pre-race, Matt Dinnerman will join us on Saturdays and our 2 Mondays. So, but yeah, we're going to rock the girl power when Thursdays start and Fridays and Sundays. Yeah, so I mean, it's one of those things that's where there's instant chemistry, which is so important in a show like that.
Yeah, I was watching yesterday, and I sit here in the studio, and folks may know I'm always kind of looking up at the towards the ceiling because my monitor is up there with 4 different tracks playing, and so I can watch the various paddock commentaries and pregame shows at the tracks. And yesterday's yours was very entertaining. So looking forward to you and Crystal and having Matt in the mix as well going forward. And as I say, I pulled up that picture of the 3 of you from your Twitter feed, and as I normally do when I get guests on the show, I'll roll down their social media and see if there's anything interesting to pull up. And I've scrolled down a ways, but it looks like you took a vacation down in New Orleans. And I found this interesting because the horse racing connection to the family seems to go back. You were sitting on what was the stoop of your grandmother's house just down the street from the fairgrounds. That had to be a lot of fun to go back and kind of reconnect with the family tradition, as it were.
You know what? That was such a full circle moment. And, you know, that's how my grandparents met. My grandmother's family converted their garage into a barn, and my grandfather had his overflow horses there and would ride them to the track every day. And I mean, it was, so, you know, my husband Paul was sitting in the car, and it's not the greatest neighborhood, and I'm sitting on somebody's stoop. He's like, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. But it really was just a truly amazing moment. And it's ironic because one of my favorite horses that has run at Oaklawn the last couple of years, Devil's Tower, his owner, Darren, I told him the story. He found the house for me initially. and then I was able to go there. But yeah, it was a very, very beautiful moment. So thank you for bringing that up.
No, I found it I always think things like that are kind of intriguing. And it was intriguing as that it as you say, a full circle moment to go back and have the family connected in racing like that. And that story even makes it better that they met because she converted the garage. The grandfather brings La Jolla. Very good. Also wanted to talk a little bit about, and from looking at the website, you're making me feel inadequate, but I wanted to tout Dawn at Oaklawn.
No, where's this going?
I wanted to talk about Dawn at Oaklawn because that's a feature you guys do. It'll start a little bit later in the meet, I believe in February, but I looked on the website and I believe also you post all of those interviews on the internet as well. But on Saturday mornings, you interview a lot of the big players of the game, and Wayne Lucas, you've done a great job with him, and I believe he's scheduled. But as they say, you made me feel a little inadequate because for this show, I'm typically calling people on Friday to, hey, can you be on Saturday morning? You have the whole schedule. You've scheduled out February through April already, and so I tip my cap to you on that.
Well, and now notice below it, there should be an asterisk that says subject to change, because if somebody's, out of town running a horse or something along those lines. But yeah, it's great because people can kind of look forward to, I don't want to miss that one. I want to make sure I'm there at Women in Racing Day. But yeah, just a way it maybe can give fans really something to look forward to. So, and hopefully boost attendance as well. Yeah,
and as I say, you do a great job with that, and that'll be Saturday mornings, again, kicking off a little bit later in the meet. And for folks who are headed down there, put that on your schedule, and if you aren't, you can follow up on the internet as well. All right, let's. You kind of alluded to it when you mentioned Ramon Vasquez, but I pulled up stats from last year, Oaklawn trainer and jockey. On the jockey side of things, it was Christian Torres having a very good meet, and Francisco Arrieta running second. Ricardo Santana was in the mix. On the trainer side, Robertina Diodoro over Steve Asmussen. Diodoro is on a suspension currently, but Asmussen won the stake yesterday. Chris Hartman, Brad Cox, Ron Maquette, Wayne Lucas in the mix last year. Give us some thoughts on the human side of things going into the current meet.
Well, as you mentioned, Ramon Vasquez actually, spent last year in Southern California, had a lot of success but did return this meet. Very happy to have him back in the colony. Martin Schwann, is a Peruvian rider, is here this meet. And Julian Leparoux has had his tack here for the first time. And Chris Landeros has returned after, I think, maybe 6 or 7 years away. So it just is a testament to, you know, the quality, the caliber of rider that comes, because there are such good horses, and the purses, that's incentive as well. So, you know, really happy to have, you know, some new training faces. There's a name that is not new to horse racing, but new on the trainer side. His name is Eddie Milligan. He's the brother of Alan Milligan, and he is training for the Willis Horton racing stable. And he was actually responsible for breaking all of their babies. So he's been affiliated with that family for many, many, many years. So it's kind of cool to see him out on the track galloping horses still. And his horses just look phenomenal. Get that deep bow in their neck when they gallop. So very excited to see how his meet plays out. Obviously had the returning trainers, as you mentioned, but I'm anxious to see a lot of trainers have more horses this year. People like Lindsay Schultz, who I think she'll be maybe, you know, the next female superstar, phenomenal horsewoman. So, yeah, really happy to have some really good names here.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Lindsay Schultz, because, again, now she's going to make a little noise down at Oaklawn, because we've been talking about her for a couple of months. I had Frank Vespi on the show a couple months ago, and he does the Racing Biz website, which concentrates on racing in the Mid-Atlantic. And he had written an article about her then and brought her name up. And I have since been watching her. She's moved to other venues. So now we'll have to continue that watch down at Oaklawn. I'm with you. I think she's a name that will start to hit people's radar more and more as we move forward. I'll also mention, just while looking at your Twitter feed, I know you're buddies with the winner of the opener of the meet, Rocco Bowen.
Well, buddies is an understatement. That's my brother from another mother. But yeah, you know, I've been affiliated with Rocco years ago when he rode for us when Paul was still training at Indiana. He lived with us his first year at Oaklawn. So it was so awesome to see him start off the meet with a bang. You know, he won the riding title at Thistle Downs this summer. He was riding East Coast during the week, and then flying to Emerald Downs to ride the weekend. So he did not sit still. So the fact that, you know, he not only won the opener, but his mom was here from Barbados.
Oh, nice.
So got to see that. So, you know, Rocco and I traveled with him to Barbados this past spring and went for the Gold Cup. So it was such an amazing experience. And he comes over for family dinners, and I would walk over hot coals for him.
I had not heard that. I have heard of long commutes. I mean, here on the East Coast, we have the folks who ride at New York and go to parks on the days off, but I have not heard Thistledown to Emerald Downs as a weekly commute. God bless them. That's very good. Also wanted to toss out, it looks like, at least for the next few days, it might be a little fun as the Asmussen boys face off. Keith and Eric are going to be riding down at Oaklawn, at least for a couple of days. It sounds like one of them may head to Texas sooner rather than later, but that'll be fun to watch those two.
Yeah, that was so cool. I remember watching the Churchill feed when Eric rode his first race and was also riding against Keith, but they actually go up against each other today. And let me look at my program real here. I think it's in the opener. So, yeah, they're actually right next to each other in the starting gate. So I'm sure that's got to be such a cool thing, you know, for Keith, seeing his little brother get out there. And obviously, you know, Julie Asmussen, their mom, extremely supportive. So I read an article where Steve and Cash rode against each other a few times. So, yeah, racing runs very deep in the Asmussen family.
Yeah, for folks who don't know, I mean, I've had Steve on up at Saratoga before, and we've talked about it. For folks who don't know, he had a relatively brief riding career himself. And as I understand it, one of his sons is now tied with him for total wins and gets Keith gets to maybe in the next win go by Dad, as it were. And I think I read the same article. They were both kind of laughing about it as well. All right, let's take a look at a couple of races this afternoon. There's two nice stakes on the card, and get some of your opinions. And we'll start out first before we talk about the race itself. The Ring the Bell is the name of the stakes race. You and I were talking before we went on the air, and you guys have a great program down there. I said, we've got the Bell in the winner's circle up at Saratoga. We have to make this happen up here. Talk a little bit about, before we talk about the race itself, talk about the concept, and for folks who are watching Oaklawn this year, they will hear references to people walking into the winner's circle and ringing the bell.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because Ring the Bell is basically providing for our local thoroughbred aftercare. When owner or any race connection rings the bell, that signifies that they have made a minimum $100 donation to the Arkansas Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation. And just I think within shy of 2 years, we've adopted out more than 50 thoroughbreds for second careers. So there's an amazing farm, maybe 15 minutes from the racetrack, where a retired jockey and his wife, who still currently ponies, if a horse has raced or trained at Oaklawn, they can be accepted into the program. So it's produced so many amazing, heartfelt stories. And, a lot of these horses might retire anywhere from 3 to 6 and 7. They still have their whole life left in front of them. And thoroughbreds want a job. So they want something to do, whether it's trail riding, whether it's jumping, whether it's Western. So we give them that opportunity. So even if a horse is maybe injured, we allow them to heal completely and get them ready for that second chance. So we're having a fundraiser today in correlation with Ring the Bell. And we have these cute little stuffed plushy horses. And for a $20 tax-deductible minimum donation, they can take home plushie. And, it's something that we love ringing the bell so much. Tampa Bay has adopted our program as well. So just thoroughbred aftercare is so critically important to our industry. So, it's something that we're very, very proud to do.
Yeah, we certainly feature a number of those kind of organizations up here when we're doing our morning shows on the backstretch at Saratoga during the season. And the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation itself is based in Saratoga, so we feature them. And it's great to know that some of these horses are being taken care of like that and promote that. And with that Ring the Bell program, as I say, if you watch races at Oaklawn during the meet, you'll hear a reference to that. And it's great because it keeps it kind of front of mind. So, but the sixth race today is named the Ring the Bell, $150,000, 6 furlongs the trip. While we talk, I'm going to pull up a replay of Tejano Twist. This is the Bet on Sunshine back in early November at Churchill. Tejano Twist is going to be the number 1 horse. I'm tilting in that direction. I think the other Chris Hartman runner, Necker Island, is interesting. Rivet from Steve Asmussen, certainly going to take a lot of action off the win in the Rich Stake at Mahoning Valley last time out. Osborne, I think, is intriguing. How did you see the Ring the Bell this afternoon?
Well, I actually am going to go with Tejano Twist on top. It's interesting that the Hartman Millionaires are right next to each other in the starting gate, coming off that win in the Bet on Sunshine, as you mentioned, at Churchill in early November. This horse can certainly put wins together. He's done it before. And, it's interesting you mentioned Rivet, who just won the Steel Valley Sprint at Mahoning. Tejano Twist won that race back in 2022. So, both of them are certainly horses for courses, love the distance. But that actually in my order is going to be Tejano Twist, Rivet, and then Necker Island. So extremely impressive field for the Ring the Bell. And as you mentioned, Osborne coming off a really nice 2 other than allowance. But I think a good long shot in there, Seth, might actually be Sir Wellington from the barn of Mac Robertson. Eduardo Gallardo is back in the irons, and he actually galloped for Mac in the morning. So he has a really good, affiliation with all of these runners. Third start off of a freshening, which I really like. And he's actually run really well in that level, just going third off a layoff. So I'm going to go with Tejano Twist as my top selection, though, in the Ring the Bell.
I like it. Caddo River, who's run well at Oaklawn, may appreciate the return to Arkansas. And I also mentioned, we were talking trainers earlier, had the pleasure of interviewing John Ortiz up at Saratoga with Brightwork, obviously running well up there. He's a fun guy, and he'll be based down at Oaklawn this season as well, as I understand it.
Yes. Next time you talk to him, call him the Crazy Colombian. That's my pet name, I guess you could say, for him. So yeah, he has just had so much success. So excited to see Brightwork, hopefully here in our series, in our 3-year-old series. She's actually in Florida right now, getting a little R&R, which is so important to give these horses. So super excited for him to have at least one standout in the barn. Yeah, he was a lot of fun to talk to, and he's another guy who I think is going to start to really hit people's radar, if he didn't already, with the Brightwork performances up at Saratoga. A little bit later this afternoon, the Mistletoe, $150,000 up for grabs for the fillies and mares going a mile. I'm going to use Misty Vale on top. Now, I don't know. It's been a while since a win, and I went back and pulled up a replay of the last win. That was back in March. Right here at Oaklawn. Misty Vale will be the number 2 horse here. Subsequently, has run decently, but not as well as this win. But I thought coming out of the 4th place finish behind the really talented Zajira last time in the Fall City at Churchill may have flattered this one a little bit. Coastal Charm is intriguing. Saddled Up Jesse. And then I went kind of to the outside with Ice Orchid from John Ortiz as maybe being a player as well. But what did you see in the Mistletoe? Well, it's interesting that you've got the last year's winner returning, that being Lovely Ride. Diodoro's assistant, Sean Williams, they're running in his name now. Christian Torres back in the irons. You mentioned Misty Vale. It's certainly been battle-tested her last several starts. I like the fact that she does shorten up after going a mile and an 8 in the Fall City. She loves this surface. She loves the distance. But I think it's going to help dropping back into the regular stakes ranks, but her numbers for me are just trending a little bit the wrong way. I still did use her third, but I'm going to go out with, I think I'm going to get a good price, hopefully, on the number 6 Coastal Charm. Did run 5th in the Groupie Doll last out in mid-August at Ellis Park, but this horse has done very well when coming in fresh. So I kind of can't help but think after that Groupie Doll event, they put her on the shelf, said specifically, let's bring her back ready for Oaklawn, and looking forward to seeing her, how she looks in the paddock. She has tons of speed, and trained by Steve Hobby. So I don't know if you saw, we just renamed a barn Chindy. So yeah, but I'm going to go with Coastal Charm. I love the fact that Martin Garcia is in for the afternoon, and I wouldn't mind seeing this horse win off the layoff. All right. Very good. I think it's a fun, competitive race. And as I said earlier, I think most racing days down there are fun and competitive, and I think you can find some nice value at Oaklawn. Really happy that the meet is underway, and happy to have been able to talk to you, Nancy, and certainly it's always enjoyable. It was this morning, and I expect we will check in multiple times again before the meet winds up, but we appreciate the time this morning. Thank you so much, and best of luck to everyone today. Don't forget, first post is 12:30, and we will be doing the replay show at 11:10. So hope to see everybody tune in. I like it. And again, I'll remind people that cross-country wager will combine some Oaklawn and some New York racing on their racing days as well. Looking forward to that. Nancy, again, thanks for taking the time. We'll talk again. Thanks so much, Seth. We'll talk to you soon. Sounds good. Nancy Holthus, you see her pregame, you see her paddock and more down at Oaklawn. And I thought, who better to check in with now that Oaklawn is underway for the new season? We'll take a break. When we come back, Pat McKenna from the New York Racing Association will join us. Again, the big news this week, Belmont Stakes at Saratoga coming up in June. We'll talk that and the redevelopment of Belmont coming up. And again, if I'm wearing a different coat when we come back, it's because we taped this interview yesterday. But there is some good info coming up from Pat McKenna. So stay tuned. All of that right after this.
And they're off in the Pegasus World Cup. Method of Youth Stakes. And they're off in the Curlin Florida Derby. Forte wins. White Aborio almost home.
And Nyquist is still unbeaten. Orb and John Velasquez have won the Florida Derby.
Barbaro wins.
And there you have it. Northern Dancer will be the winner of the Florida Derby.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Obviously, big news over the last few days regarding the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga. It was unofficially official for a couple of months. I had people walking up to me, friends, strangers, business people in Saratoga saying, it's coming, right? And I said, I'm reasonably sure it's coming, but we have to wait for the announcement. The announcement came out this week, Belmont Stakes at Saratoga in 2024. And I thought we'd reach out to our friend Pat McKenna, Vice President of Communications from the New York Racing Association, to kind of flesh it out a little bit. Pat, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, if you and I are talking in the month of December, it's probably about some pretty big news, and it's probably related to Saratoga. So happy to be here. Thanks, Seth.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you on board again to kind of, as I say, flesh things out. First, before we get to actual Belmont at Saratoga, talking to people, I think a lot of people who really follow racing in the summertime and maybe are more casual fans other times of the year may not be familiar totally with what the situation is that is bringing about this schedule change. So talk a little bit about Belmont and the redevelopment that's going to happen down there. I pulled up a little video Dave Grenig tweeted out just the other day. He took kind of a pan shot that shows obviously a lot of work already going on, turf courses down at Belmont. But again, for folks who maybe aren't familiar, talk a little bit about the redevelopment at Belmont.
Sure, and it's actually the reason why Governor Kathy Hochul announced this news. It's because of her support of the redevelopment of Belmont Park downstate is what paves the way for the Belmont Stakes and the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival at Saratoga in 2024. We are underway with a number of projects that are critical to the future of Belmont Park, and in short order, we'll be embarking on a $455 million project to completely reimagine the building and the entire environment at Belmont Park. We're going to be constructing a 275,000 foot building to replace the roughly 1.2 million square foot building that exists now. By doing that, we'll free up an enormous amount of green space, of open space. So believe it or not, even though the building will be significantly smaller, much more intimate, much more comfortable with the kind of hospitality and amenities that frankly haven't existed there for decades. It'll also allow that facility to scale up for the Belmont Stakes or the Breeders' Cup, who have committed to returning to Belmont Park at the conclusion of this project. So we'll be able to welcome far more fans than we can now, at the same time, to a modern facility with the kinds of, as I said, hospitality offerings, amenities, and really central to the project is unlocking an enormous amount of green space, in addition to the infield, where we're constructing a pedestrian tunnel as we speak to connect the grandstand with the massive Belmont Park infield. So it's really exciting on both fronts. The fact that we're embarking on this transformational project at Belmont Park, which will allow for the Belmont Stakes, a Triple Crown event for the first time in history, to be contested at Saratoga Race Course in 2024, and most likely in 2025.
Yeah, looking forward. As I say, there's been a lot of buzz in the area. But again, just getting back to Belmont, I pulled up a shot of the current grandstand, and that's going to be raised, and a new facility will show up. I also have a shot of the paddock area, and I know a lot of people really love that paddock area down at Belmont Park. But as you say, and you've kind of more than alluded to it, you stated it, the backyard at Belmont is going to expand, and there will also be a new fan experience. I think a lot of people may be looking forward to that, being out in the infield at Belmont as well. So the facility itself, the building contracts, but the fan amenities, backyard and whatnot will expand down at Belmont.
Dramatically, and that's absolutely a priority of NYRA CEO Dave O'Rourke, and we've learned a ton from Saratoga. Part of what makes Saratoga so special is that backyard experience. People want to be there. They want to gather with families and friends for generations at Saratoga, and we've seen that at Belmont. We lost some of that because of the construction of UBS Arena. So central to the project is unlocking certainly the infield, which is sooner than later, but then by reducing the footprint of the building, you're going to get a reintroduction of open space, almost in a parkland kind of setting. So it'll also be a year-round facility. Remember, this project will require the closure of aqueducts, which, we love aqueducts. I would come right out and say it. Each of our tracks are unique and have their own personality, and aqueduct is certainly the New York City track, and it's our year-round home, has been for a very long time. But to have two racetracks 8 miles apart from one another no longer makes sense. Yeah. Helpful to remind your viewers that we no longer train or stable here at Aqueduct. So all of the horses are shipping over here for live racing, generally Thursday through Sunday, Friday through Sunday during part of the winter. So by consolidating our operations to one facility that will truly be world-class, a destination for horse racing fans, for the world of thoroughbred racing, the Aqueduct property will return to the state, and they will determine the future of this incredible, valuable piece of land. So this is a bright spot here in New York State for thoroughbred racing throughout the country, and much of that is a credit to our partners in New York State government, and certainly Governor Hochul, who recognizes the importance of this sport, not only culturally and as a source of civic pride when you think of upstate New York and its fans, but also what it means for the economy. This Belmont project is going to create thousands of jobs, billions of dollars of economic impact. And again, the byproduct of this project down here will be a Belmont Stakes racing festival outside of the normal summer season, outside of the traditional tourist season in early June. And you're talking about tens of millions of dollars of impact, not only to Saratoga Springs, but throughout the capital region. Yeah, and that's really important.
As I say, there's a lot of excitement up here, and that includes some business owners I've talked to. They are completely looking forward to that 4-day festival up here. Before I move away from Saratoga, there was a little fun news before I move away from Belmont. There was some fun news the past couple of days. You're partnering up with USB and the Islanders. You'll have a little park with some ponds that folks can play some hockey on as well down at Belmont.
Yeah, it should be really cool, and more than a little park. I mean, that'll take up most of the current Belmont Park backyard. 2 rinks, 1 sheet of ice, 1 sheet of synthetic ice. They tell me that's sort of usable year round. But as Dave O'Rourke said in that news release yesterday, the community is central to the new Belmont Park, and this advances that mission. I think it'll be fun and great to be able to increase access to outdoor recreation for Elmont, for Floral Park, Garden City. Really affordable. And listen, during these long winter months, it's good to be able to spend time outside, and that's exactly what this will do.
Yeah, it sounded like a fun addition down there. And finally, you've kind of alluded to it already when you mentioned, you looked at the backyard up at Saratoga, and that would play into expanding the green space at Belmont as well. But I'm curious because New York, obviously a crown jewel of racing, American racing, and the Belmont is one of the foundational kind of venues in the country. So to reimagine it, I'm wondering what it has gone in and will go into making a 21st century facility. And I pulled up some shots from Saratoga, and I wonder if you've got some ideas from Saratoga as well, because that, over the past few years, NYRA's done a great job of bringing that into the 21st century while holding on to the historic nature of the facility. But the whole stretch area, the seating area there, the paddock suites, the 1863 club, again, over the last few years, you've done a great job up there. Are you taking some of what you've learned modernizing Saratoga over to Belmont? But what is going into the thought process on bringing the Belmont facility into the 21st century?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And those big, massive capital projects, I mean, something like the 1863 Club was completed, in 9 months to be open for 2019, having started in September of 2018. Pretty amazing. And we have a really skilled group of professionals who are focused on capital improvement projects, on the design of the new building, looking at other racetracks, largely internationally, because those are the examples of tracks that have been built from the ground up in recent years. This will be the first ground up racetrack construction project in North America in almost 50 years. So it's certainly a big responsibility and a huge opportunity to be able to develop a facility where people will want to come back time after time. Whether that's lapsed racing fans, as we sort of saw during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, or young families. And that's what you see at Saratoga, where you want to spend time outdoors with families and friends in an environment where you're also, betting a few races, watching other sports potentially. The rise of sports betting has been, I think, even more explosive than predicted. In New York State, in the month of October, New York State residents wagered $2 billion on sports in 1 month, which is pretty amazing and shows you the growth of that piece of the entire wagering equation. So the answer is yes. We're learning from, certainly you'll take lessons from Saratoga and the success of those hospitality offerings. It also, to bring it back to Belmont, that's why it's such a fantastic venue. You have at every different price point, whether it's the 1863 Club, a picnic table in the backyard, the stretch, the new, paddock suite, which has been so well received. There's something for everyone at Saratoga. And while there will certainly be high-end offerings at the new Belmont, we're committed to making sure that this is a facility that all New Yorkers can have access to and all New Yorkers can be proud of.
Yeah, as I say, New York is so important to American racing. I'm really excited to see what is in store for the new era, as I think it could be favorably labeled, correctly labeled, with Belmont Park being redeveloped. But again, that is the impetus behind the announcement a couple of days ago. And you've alluded to the governor already, who seems very supportive of racing and the refurbishment downstate. But I think she was enthusiastic with her announcement a couple of days ago and recognizing what it's going to mean to upstate to bring the Belmont Stakes up here, June 6th through the 9th, a 4-day festival. We have the tweet the governor sent out. And I'm curious, it did come out through the governor's office. So there was obviously a New York State component to this decision. How did that work?
Sure. And all of our race dates are, through the franchise agreement, approved by the New York State Gaming Commission in advance. So we were awaiting the approval of the Belmont at Saratoga from the Gaming Commission. And obviously, because the governor is responsible for the success of the redevelopment of Belmont Park by providing the funding through the New York State budget. And remember, these are also New York State owned pieces of property, Aqueduct, Saratoga Race Course, and Belmont Park. So we're really fortunate in New York, the entire horse racing community, to have a governor that is so supportive of what we're doing, and even more importantly, what we will be doing in the future. So, again, this is a bright spot here in New York State, and it's incredibly exciting. I think the reception for the official news that the Belmont Stakes would be run in Saratoga was incredibly positive. And it won't be an average, in terms of the expectations, this is not going to be an average, Saratoga, an average day during the Saratoga summer meet. This will look and feel a lot more like the Belmont Stakes in terms of multi-day ticket packages and and the rest of it. But ultimately, we're working really hard to make sure that we're going to be holding an event that we can all be proud of.
Well, I mentioned June 6th through the 9th, Thursday through Sunday. Yeah. The number's 23 stakes, just under $10 million in purses. The purse itself for the Belmont Stakes has been up to $2 million. Now, the Belmont itself will be 1.25 miles because that is far more suited, obviously, to the Saratoga track. But again, the buzz up here is the past couple of months, but the past couple of days since the official announcement has just been, people recognize me from being here on the network. And so I'll be in the supermarket and people are like, oh, can't wait. So I think it's going to be just an incredible 4 days. But from NYRA's perspective, talk a little bit about your excitement level to bring it up here. And beyond that, when can we start to look for, firming up tickets and those kind of things?
Sure. Yeah, we always have Saratoga on our minds, no matter where we are, other than maybe those few weeks immediately around the Belmont Stakes. But knowing the importance of the summer meet and its impact on all of upstate New York. So to be able to do something for the first time at a venue where horses have been running for almost 160 years, you don't get that chance very often. So, yeah, I think we feel a lot like any fans of racing, the prospect of a Triple Crown closing at Saratoga Race Course. It's, any of those big days, the appreciation for the athletes that are on track, second to none, the knowledge of the sport, throughout Saratoga and upstate New York, second to none. So, I think when you couple that with an event the magnitude of the Belmont Stakes, it should be special, and we're really looking forward to it.
And again, when can people start looking to firm things up as far as tickets and whatnot?
Yep, middle of February.
Okay.
We'll look to go on sale with ticket packages. We'll have some news in advance of that. And so if you've attended Belmont Stakes, so you'll know. But these will not. This will not look like the Saratoga Summer Meet in a lot of ways. We'll be packaging tickets 3 and 4 day offerings, hospitality areas where we'll have fully inclusive offerings, food and beverage included, which is what we've been doing for the Belmont Stakes for quite some time, but not what we do up at Saratoga. So that may be an adjustment, and we certainly acknowledge that. But this is a Belmont Stakes at Saratoga, sort of in that order.
I like the way you put it, though. It's not, you're exactly right. It's not too often you get to do something the first time at a facility that's been around this long. And we're looking forward to it, certainly, as I say, up here. I talked to you before we went on the air also, and you mentioned it was in the press room, but I've had 3 or 4 people walk up to me and say, have you heard? And some people have speculated that there will be Saratoga, again, with the Belmont redevelopment, the New York schedule has changed. There will be some racing after Saratoga. But I told people that does not sound likely to me. I think the schedule, and you can confirm, there'll be the Belmont at Saratoga, there'll be the standard Saratoga meet. Otherwise, they'll be down at Aqueduct for the remainder of the year.
Yes, and that was what was announced in the press release. That following the conclusion of the 40-day summer meet, we will return to Aqueduct for the 3rd edition of the Belmont at the Big A fall meet. And, it is true that the next 2 years will be full of adjustments. This is unprecedented in a lot of ways. Yeah. The last time Belmont was renovated in the 1960s, Aqueduct was a completely different facility that was able to hold the Belmont Stakes for, 40 or 50, 60,000 people. That's not possible here anymore. What is the capacity of Aqueduct? It might be as little as 9,000, 10,000. So, this will be a different few years, probably full of adjustments, but hopefully, just like the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga, they'll be really positive. And remember the long term here, not just the next 2 years, but we're building a Belmont Park for the next 50 years that will be a world-class destination in the heart of Nassau County, on the border of Queens, accessible to the city, as so many of your viewers and listeners know. So
Yeah.
this is a great time to be involved in New York racing.
And just as a fan, I am excited to see a new Belmont because, again, it's kind of the crown jewel of facilities, you could say, in American racing. And I have looked at a lot of facilities and been to a lot of facilities over the past, 10 or 15 years, and they just haven't moved into the 21st century. And to bring fans out, I think you have to do that. You have to that stretch to me up at Saratoga with the boxes reimagined and whatnot is a perfect example of that. I think you have to cater to the 21st century fan and have the correct amenities. So I'm looking forward to the refurbishment, the redevelopment down at Belmont and whatnot. And before we let you go, I also wanted to touch on a tweet you sent out. Speaking of refurbishment, it was just a couple of years ago, the refurbishment of the Oklahoma training track. And I'm going to read from a tweet you sent out. Through 7 months. And again, for folks who aren't familiar, the Oklahoma training track up at Saratoga goes, April through October and November. But through 7 months of use this year, there were 9,164 timed workouts on the dirt and turf up at Oklahoma. Safe for everybody. And again, a 7 or 8 month facility up there that has really benefited from the money put into refurb that Oklahoma training track as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. That was completely overhauled. The main track surface was renovated from the base up, new base, new cushion. It was widened significantly. We're talking about 10 to 12 feet in a lot of areas down the backstretch. And that has only increased in popularity, and the renovation reflects that increase in popularity. Some of our, the biggest trainers in the country, have large presences up there beginning in May and extending through October. So it's a really great facility. If you talk to trainers, they'll all tell you almost to a person that this is a place where horses feel comfortable, especially young horses. So it's a credit to the maintenance team.
Yeah.
I think we're probably the only jurisdiction that's operating as many tracks all at the same time. During the fall, for example, you have the main track at Belmont, the training track at Belmont, the various synthetic surfaces we have now at Belmont, along with the Oklahoma with a turf course and a main track. So a whole handful of facilities all operating at the same time for the benefit of the horsemen and the horses that make this all possible.
Yeah, and again, it's a nice part of the area up here that the Oklahoma track continues that racing after the meet and before the meet as well for folks who aren't familiar. Pat, really appreciate the conversation. Again, I knew we had to get you in here when the announcement became official a couple of days ago because I have had so much feedback the past. And you're from this area. You must get it, too, when you come to town. People have been asking me the past couple of months, and when it became official, I played some basketball on Wednesday night, and people were asking, and then got a bunch of texts from those folks the past couple of days. Everybody is a buzz up here. Really looking forward to it. So, again, I appreciate you taking the time to kind of fill us in on Belmont at Saratoga and the redevelopment down at the facility down in New York, and we will talk again in the future.
Yeah, so just a couple more things before I go.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll have some more details on the actual schedule of races in the middle of December. And then again, in early 2024, we'll have some more guidance on the timeline for tickets and sales. So keep an eye out on those and really appreciate the time. No,
I appreciate your taking the time, Pat, and good luck going forward to everybody down there. Looking forward to learning more about that redevelopment of Belmont and the plans coming up for Saratoga. But we appreciate all the info you gave us today. And as I say, we'll talk again in the future.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Pat McKenna, Vice President of Communications from the New York Racing Association. Again, big news a couple days ago. Belmont Stakes at Saratoga in 2024 becomes official. Who's ready for Saratoga in June? I am. I think everybody, as I say, for 2 months, people have been saying, is it coming? And I said, they got to make the announcement at some point. And I told people I would expect it to come after the Breeders' Cup, which it did. I was expecting a little sooner, but, what are we, 3-4 weeks after the Breeders' Cup? And the announcement came out this week. Belmont Stakes at Saratoga, 23 stakes over the 4 days, close to $10 million in purses. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And as Pat said, coming up over the next couple of months, there'll be more info on tickets and whatnot. It sounds like ticket prices may not be your Thursday at Saratoga ticket affair, But we will see when that news comes out. And again, I just think people are really looking forward to it. Again, I've talked to friends of mine, strangers come up to me, some business people in downtown Saratoga as well, and everybody seems excited. So appreciate Pat stopping by again. We taped that yesterday, filling us in not just on Belmont and Saratoga, but the Belmont redevelopment itself, which I think is exciting to bring that facility into the 21st century. I also want to thank our friend Nancy Holthus for joining us. That was a fun conversation with her as we kick off the 2023-2024 meet at Oaklawn yesterday. Yesterday, 10 races. I had 5 winners on top. And I said yesterday, normally a venue that just opens up for the season, it's like a week where I feel like I'm treading water a little bit because, which jockeys are going to get hot, which trainers are going to get hot, is the track going to play in some fashion? So I was pleased with a nice start to the Oaklawn meet yesterday with the one sheet and here on OTB Live as well. We'll do more of the same today. I don't know whether I'll do Oaklawn every day for the one sheet. In some fashion, I'll probably do it most days. If I don't put it on the one sheet, maybe I'll tweet out selections just because I really like Oaklawn. But today I did include it. It's over on the one sheet, but I also did some Aqueduct and some Gulfstream today. So we'll be looking at those tracks in about an hour or so with OTB Live. To give you post times, we're just over an hour from Gulfstream. They're 12:10. 12:20 we'll kick things off at Aqueduct today. And as far as Oaklawn, they'll be 1:30 our time. And as Nancy said, they're also going to have that cross-country Pick 5 teamed up with Aqueduct on racing days. So that'll be something to look forward to as well. All right, we'll wrap it up for this Saturday morning edition of Racing Across America. Seth Merrow in the studio. As always, thanks for joining us. A lot of fun in here. And again, we will be back in probably about an hour or so to kick things off with the 12:10 post time at Gulfstream. Again, be about an hour, and we'll jump in and look at that opener at Gulfstream and then move on to Aqueduct and beyond for a fun Saturday afternoon here. Don't forget, we'd love to have you come down. Join us here at the Clubhouse Racebook if you are so inclined. You can grab a little lunch over at Fridella's and enjoy all the racing action here on a Saturday. And in fact, any racing day, you can pop down and enjoy the action at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. And don't forget, tomorrow at the Racebook, another football Sunday. You can watch all the NFL action and all the racing action right here at the Clubhouse Racebook every Sunday throughout the season, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up for Racing Across America. But again, back in about an hour or so for OTB Live for a Saturday afternoon. We'll see you then. We'd like to thank Gulfstream Park for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Gulfstream Park, the championship meet, running now through Florida Derby weekend, March 31st.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.